Hello and welcome to another pattern recognition video featuring night outpost patterns. And right away it looks like we have one maybe with a lot going on. It's a little bit tricky here. So let's see what is happening in this position. And remember, you can pause at any time in the video if you want to think longer. So the first thing to do is just go ahead and see who's ahead here, whose turn is it. Well, white their queen was under attack by our queen, and so they retreated back, creating a battery here, putting more pressure on this pawn, creating another battery in this direction with a possible check. Now let's look at the material and see who's ahead in this. It looks like if we're playing the black pieces, we're ahead at the moment. We have what? 6 pawns versus their 5, and we have an extra rook versus their bishop. So black is ahead, but white is trying to build up some attacks here, as I said, threatening a check here. If our king goes into the corner, there might be a possibility of the knight checking the king. And then if we take their bishop, the knight could move out of the way, maybe with a discovered attack by the queen, and pick off our queen. So there's maybe some danger building up here against black, but it's black's turn. So what do you think the best move is here? And these puzzles, they're basically all about the knight outpost, which is important. You definitely, if you're not familiar with the knight outpost, look at this knight here on e5. White has a knight on the outpost, which is basically on a square that can't be attacked by pawns because there are no F or D pawns for black. And the knight is protected at the moment by this pawn. So maybe white could think about capturing this pawn and attacking the knight, then it would be unprotected. But maybe the rook could try and swing over and protect. Now, if you're trying to figure out what move to make, there's a good piece of advice that goes check on every move for checks, captures, and threats. I think Gotham Chess calls it checks, captures, and attacks, maybe. But, the same thing, basically. And then, if you can't find anything with checks, captures, or threats, well, then you want to try, and if people asked about that, what do you do if there are no good checks, captures, or threats? Well, then you just try to improve or optimize your position of the pieces you have on the board. But first, let's look at this. All right, black's turn to move. Do we have any checks? Well, if we capture that, the king could just capture us. We could continue with another check here, maybe. But we just lose our queen after that. I don't see a good follow-up. What other checks? That might be the only one. So it appears we don't have any good checks. Captures. Well, when you're looking for captures, you want to look for unprotected pieces and then unprotected pawns. So we do have this pawn that the queen could capture, so maybe that's a candidate move. Might have to look at that. What else? Anything unprotected? This pawn's unprotected. Maybe we could threaten to capture this, push this pawn forward, threaten to take that with our queen. But the problem is, we have to watch out for checks, captures, and threats against our position as well. So if they move here, check us, we can't run out to here because the knight is covering that. So we would have to go here. And that could be pretty dangerous because then you could have a check. The only thing that could be done is to capture so maybe this is pretty dangerous. Let's say if we try to look for an attacking move, a threat, if we jump this knight forward and threaten a mate in one here, does that work? What if they check us? Like I said, we would have to move over here. Okay, so once again, if we go here, they deliver a check. The only thing we can do is go into the corner, and then their knight delivers a check. So we would be forced to capture. The knight could drop back, leaving a discovered attack by the queen. And threaten our queen. So maybe we have to deal with that by moving our queen. Perhaps we just go ahead and capture this pawn, and then we're threatening the knight. But, once again, you could have check, king moves, knight moves, we capture the bishop, and the discovered attack. Does that work now? I mean, what would they go after? They could jump up here and then take our knight. So this is a tough one. I mean, I hope you're having better luck than I am, and maybe I'm missing something here. What is the most forcing? Maybe we move this rook so that our king can run over here to f8. So maybe if we go there, threatening the queen, the king or the queen could capture. All right, this is a tough one. I guess I better just make a move here. I don't know. This seems too slow if I take this pawn. Oh, also there's this threat of forking the rooks. Maybe we just bring our knight back towards the center to prevent this check. Maybe that's a good move. But then our opponent could pick off this pawn. If they do that, we pick off theirs. But maybe we bring our knight up here, take this pawn, and then we're able to create a knight outpost for our own knight. The problem is this rook could capture. All right, I'm just going to make a move here. What seems to be best? What do you think? This doesn't really seem like, it seems too passive if we just bring our knight back into the position. Should we jump forward and attack? But they could check us, and I don't like all of that. Not sure here. Okay, I'm just going to start making some moves. Let's see. Okay, that was my first thought, is to bring that up, threaten a mate here. Okay, now we're forced into the corner, but why didn't they jump that knight in and go after our queen? Hmm. Well, now we can just pick this off. Go there. Knock that out. I don't know about that. I'm going to put the analysis up and go back to the beginning here. So queen to c2. And then if we go here, what if they immediately check us? Okay, and is that what they did? Yes, that's what they did. And our king has to go to h8, so that's forced. Now what about knight to g6? Apparently, that doesn't work. So, oh, because our knight can just capture there. So if we go there, the knight can just take. All right, so that ruins that whole idea. You know, and after bishop takes, well, now what? We can just go after this pawn. B4 can be played. We can start pushing our passed pawn on the queen side. All right. Before this drags out forever, let's take a look at the next problem. I usually try and do at least 5 problems, and that one was a little bit tricky. Okay, our opponent has pushed a rook forward, targeting a pawn, which was protected by our queen, but now our queen is under attack. What do we do? And they have a knight on the outpost here. Okay. All right. Well, what can we do now? All right. First, we want to look at the material. We have 3, 4, 5 pawns versus their 6. So they're ahead by 1 pawn. We each have a knight and a bishop, rook and queen. So our opponent is just up by a pawn. So if we look for checks, captures, and threats, we have a check up here. So check. The king would be forced to move here. Then what? We could drop our knight back to here, delivering a check. Or do we continue attacking here with our rook, but our king, you know, or do we just attack with our queen? So maybe that's what we have to do. Let's take a look at all this. Check. King is forced to go here. Now, do we involve the queen by going here? If they block with the pawn, well, then we can grab this pawn with check. So maybe that's what we have to do. Check. King is forced to go here. If we check again, what if the king runs towards the middle? Well, then we could move our queen up here and deliver a check. But our opponent would be able to run here. Then what do we do? All right, maybe this works. Let's play it out. We go here. King has to come forward. We go here. Now remember, when a king is in check, their options are to capture the attacker, block the attacker, or run. So the queen cannot be captured here. They could block with the pawn, but then we saw that we can just take another pawn over here with check. Okay, so if they run here, we can go what? Check. King will be forced to run here. And what do we do then? We could attack again with the queen and they would take our... Oh, we can grab their queen if we line up here. Okay, so it looks like that works. You know, pause the video if you want to figure it out all in your head on your own, but let's go here. All right, check. We bring the queen up to cause all kinds of problems. So we attack, and now we can move here and grab their queen. So, you know, what can the king do? Can't move along this line here because of the rook. The only thing that can be done is to grab that. And then we can grab their queen. If they take our rook, then we'll take their rook. You know, I guess they could try and grab a pawn, but we'll just be ahead in material. All right, on to the next problem. What do we have here? A rook is lining up on our queen along with this knight, threatening to capture. We can't take their knight because their queen is pinning our pawn to our king. Okay. And we do have a bishop guarding along with our queen. We have a bishop over here attacking our knight, but we're protecting with the rook, both rooks, so I think we're okay. All right. What do we do here? And as far as a knight on an outpost, well, we kind of have a knight on an outpost here, but it's not the greatest outpost. I mean, their pawn can push forward and chase our knight away. All right, look at the material. We have 6 pawns. They have 6 pawns. We have a knight and bishop, 2 rooks. So material is even. Checks, captures, and threats. What checks do we have? The knight could jump up here, but would be captured, so that doesn't look so good. Any other checks? No. Captures. Do they have anything unprotected? Well, this knight is unprotected, but we can't capture because of the pin. Any other unprotected pieces? The bishop, but we're not attacking that. We could capture this pawn, you know, with rook or knight. And we don't want to block the attack on the knight, or sorry, block the pin, or break that pin, because the knight could just capture us. If our king captures, well then this bishop would be pinning our knight, and the pawn could put pressure on that pin piece, you know, and capture the knight. So what can we do here? All right, another tough one. Maybe we jump forward here attacking the bishop. But that doesn't work. The queen could just capture us. But if they do, we could capture. But now our king side is kind of broken open. All right. So, hmm. All right. Do we just go after this pawn with our rook? Maybe our knight picks off the pawn, threatening their bishop. Oh, and that leaves a discovered attack on their knight as well. So maybe that's the way to go. The problem is if we do that, the knight could capture. They'll have 3 attackers and we only have 2 defenders. But we are threatening to just grab this bishop. So I don't know, I kind of like that. We go here and we threaten their knight. So I'm going to try that. Okay, so that's what they wanted. And now we can just pick that knight off. Okay. What now? What should we do with the knight? We could just push our pawn forward, maybe. Or do we move the knight? Okay. Oh, and we have to watch. There's a mate threat right here. Okay. So we probably have to block that. But how? Do we save the knight and block at the same time? If we go here, they can push this pawn. But maybe we're forced to do that. All right, I guess we are forced to do that. Now they can push the pawn, take that. But we can reposition our bishop. So if they take, we take with the bishop and trade material down. All right. I did want to look at something, though. Let me go back to the beginning. So they move there. Once we go here, what was the other possibility that they had? All right, we're still guarding that. They have 3 attackers, but we have 3 defenders because of that knight. So what did they say the best move was? Just to retreat back, and then we capture. Okay. All right, on to the next problem. We'll try and get 2 more done here so the video isn't, too crazy long. All right. What do we have? Pawn up to a4. And now material. We have 4 pawns. They have 5. But we have we have a knight versus their rook. So they are ahead. What can white do here? And we have a knight. This is kind of a different outpost. The bishop is guarding the knight. And at the moment, there's no pawns that can attack the knight because this pawn here is blocked from coming forward and attacking the knight to chase it away. All right, they do have a passed pawn on the run here. Maybe there's a way we could attack their king and queen here. All right. Oh, maybe we have a mate threat. Look at checks, captures, and threats in that order. Checks first. If we just go here, what can be done? They could block. So maybe that doesn't work. Any unprotected pieces? Just the rook over there. So threats. Maybe we can create a mate threat. If we could land the queen here, that would be a mate. So maybe we move up here, threatening the mate. How do they stop that? Well, so if we go here, threatening the mate, only way to stop that, there's no way to block it. They could, if they try to block, push that pawn, we just capture it with the mate. So the king needs some breathing room. Maybe he pushes this pawn. But if he pushes that pawn, we go here. Oh, the king can run this way. And if we deliver the check, the king can start running. All right, so we have to see if we have a good follow-up. If we go here, the king runs forward. We could go here with check. Their queen could just block. All right, maybe we try the other way that I saw. We go here, and then we can threaten to go here with our bishop, something like that. So that's another option. All right, so check. If they block, we could go here delivering a check, but the king could just step over to the side. Oh, maybe more forcing would be to immediately go here. Yeah, what am I thinking? Yeah, that's way more forcing. So if we go there, it pins the queen. I guess I wasn't thinking that the knight or the king is protecting that square. So yes, this is the obvious move. We go there, attack. If the queen moves, it would put the king in check. So we have a pin. All right. So we just go there. All right, so that was pretty obvious. Wow. Okay, yeah, hopefully you got that one a lot faster than I did. Sometimes when I start staring at these problems, especially the ones that I had earlier that took so long, it kind of scrambles your brains, I guess. Okay, that's why you should practice these regularly to get used to solving and calculating. All right, the king has stepped forward here. What can we do? What is the material looking like here? All right, we have 5 pawns. Our opponent has 5 pawns. We have knight and bishop. They have a knight. So we have 1 bishop for 2 rooks that they have. So we need to do something immediately here to try and get an advantage. Okay. Mm, wow. Maybe we start looking for checks. If we go here, we'll just be captured. Maybe here. Because the opponent, if he comes forward, then what? We can't go here or he'll just capture us. So check. If he steps forward, how do we continue the attack? Oh, we can bring our bishop up. And that would be it. So, check. If our opponent can't run, he could block. If he does that, well then we could go back and deliver a check. And if he steps forward, we go here. All right. So check, check. Okay, and that was one move that I overlooked. I guess I rushed. So make sure you try to calculate as much as you can and avoid surprise moves. But here we're lucky we can just take that. And then after this, what? The only thing our opponent can do is run here. And we just continue attacking. So I might as well show that. We go there, check. Now if he runs forward, then we can just take here, deliver a mate in one move. So the other possibilities are mate and 4. They went here, we just capture. The king starts running. Well, now we could go queen to d2, or we could take on f3, but that's a little bit slower. Let's say we check. Our opponent can do what now? King to g3, then we mate immediately with the queen moving here. So queen blocks, or the king goes to f1, bishop to h3, and then we just mate here. Anyway, let's get out of here. And all right, I'll wrap it up there. That was 5 puzzles. I apologize for the first couple taking so long, and I hope you did well on these. Remember to practice, study, solve puzzles regularly. That way you improve your pattern recognition. And remember, if you do harder puzzles, it'll also help you work on your calculation ability. All right. Feel free to leave comments, like, and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.